Well, hello and welcome to this week's Friday Finance Masterclass. I'm just going to check and make sure we're going live. Right, this week we are talking about how the marginal gains can build and create your financial freedom. Now, as usual, please let me know if you are watching. Please comment below. If you're watching later on replay, let me know with #replay, and please do like and comment and let me know what you're thinking, what your queries are, what your questions are, and I'll answer all those after the event's actually finished. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so when we think about financial freedom, I get it, it can seem like a really impossible dream, a far off impossible goal. It can feel really out of reach and quite intangible, really. So how do we find a way to make progress on those financial goals all of the time without it feeling like it's just something so far out of reach? Well, the thing is, if you're building your financial freedom and you're relying on selling your business one day, you're actually setting yourself up for financial dependence. Whereas what we all want to build is financial independence, whereas if we sell our business in the future, it's the icing on the cake, it's not the cake itself. So finding ways to build our freedom along the way is really, really important. So we hear this a lot, don't we? Massive success is created by massive action. It's very Tony Robbins. And I'm not saying I don't believe in taking massive action, I do, but it can be quite overwhelming and stressful to always be in a state of taking massive action. So, and I think it's quite exhausting as well. So I'm asking, is there another way to think about building financial freedom in a more incremental way that doesn't require us going full out taking massive action all of the time, because we can't really sustain that level. So let's talk about another way. And that way is marginal gains. Now, marginal gains, you may know, is the 1% incremental changes. I'm sure you've all heard about marginal gains, but it's one of the things we kind of know about but don't necessarily factor in every day and really take action on in our business. So marginal gains really are about the accumulation of all those tiny 1% changes all the way through your business. And I just wonder whether that's a more meaningful way to go than this constant striving in massive action mode the whole time, or taking massive action, then measuring those 1% gains and always looking for those incremental changes. It's actually a very, very powerful way of doing things as well, because if you're making progress all the time by 1%, you know you're building something, you know you're actually accumulating something over time. And I think it's more sustainable in the long run as well to be making those just more of an incremental approach to the future, rather than maybe relying on one big sale or one big deal coming off, and that being the key to us getting where we want to be. And I'm sure this is a graph you've probably seen before as well. So this is the graph where the 1% gains are accumulating over time. When we first start making these sort of changes, we can't really see the difference. It's very, very tiny there. We can't really see what's happening. But then over time, the gains absolutely gather pace and they compound incredibly, because all those 1% are adding on top of each other over time. So I wanted you to see just how achievable this could actually be by putting some numbers together and just showing you how these things can build up over time. These tiny steps, these little changes that we can make, how they all add on to each other over time. And it's the power of compounding, which you'll probably have heard about before, but it's not just the one thing in isolation, it's everything all added together. Because when we're talking about compounding, we're talking about marginal gains, we are of course talking about a longer period of time. We're not talking about the quick win, the big sale, like, oh, I have a brilliant year, I'll try and put some cash away. This is about looking at the longer term as well, which is actually the way that most companies and most business owners are going to find success. We hear about these great big success stories and these companies that come out of nowhere and become worth millions seemingly overnight. The reality is that those companies are incredibly few and far between. 99.9% of companies are around the long-term game, building solid, sustainable growth and value and wealth along the way. And 10 to 20 years sounds like a crazy long time, but I realised I've been in business 21 years, which I find completely mind-blowing and astonishing. But there you go, it's 21 years. But it's going to pass anyway, isn't it? Those 20 years will be gone one day. And I want to ask you, what will you have to show for it? If you've been in business for any length of time already, what have you got to show for where you are now? Is it what you thought you'd have by now? Are you where you thought you'd be? Or is there a chance that you maybe could have done better? So it's these small gains multiplied by time, 10 to 20 years, it's ages. But in those 20 years' time, what could you have accumulated? So I'm going to look at some examples now just to show you how powerful this can be. Now, I just want you to think, how much money will you have had through your hands in 10 years' time? I don't mean what you've earned through your dividends or your salary or your drawings, but how much money will have passed through your hands in your business in 10 years? Now, I've assumed here just a modest 5% sales growth per annum, which when you consider that inflation should be 2.5% to 3% of that, we're not exactly shooting for the moon here. So if you're turning over 250k a year, you're going to have had £3.1 million through your hands in 10 years' time. If you're turning over £500,000, we're talking £6.3 million. £6.3 million through your sticky mitts in those years. If we're doing, and we'll probably work out the sums from here, if we're doing £1 million, you're going to take £12.6 million through your hands in that time. And at 2 million, God, my writing's terrible. That's a 5. £25 million are going to go through your hands in the next 10 years. So my question is, though, how much of that will you have kept? How much of that wealth that has been through your business, through your hands, have you retained and done something with to secure your future? And I can tell you from 21 years working with small companies, the answer is usually not a lot. So let's see if we can change that. Right, I have done some fairly big maths, complicated spreadsheets to come up with these figures for you. I'm going to share some numbers with you as to what you could have accumulated using some really, really modest assumptions. Now, I'm going to give you a disclaimer alert before I start. We have to, of course, factor in tax and inflation. Now, these are just an illustration to give you an idea of how this scale is going to happen, how this accumulation happens over time, and to show you the possibilities to really get you excited about starting to make those 1% gains straight away. I'll just talk you through what assumptions I've made in coming up with this. I've assumed, again, a 5% annual sales growth, not particularly ambitious, a 5% return on any investments you make, again, a pretty standard investment we hope to make, increasing our gross margin by 1%, but only doing it once. So as in if in year one, we'd increase gross margin by 1%, I'm assuming then you wouldn't increase it again. So again, not shooting for the moon. We then make a further increase to net profit through cutting overheads, being more efficient, more effective, and just adding profit. So between those two, we'd be adding 2% to your net bottom line after cash, after tax, after dividends. And then assuming you'd invest just 2% of your turnover into your pension or another investment vehicle at the 5%. And I'm assuming here that we're going to be making a 12% net profit. You know that my standard is 10%. That's what I want you to be making after tax, after dividends. I'm saying here it's going to be 12 because you've made these 2 incremental changes to lift your net margin up another couple of notches. And I'm assuming that your business trades for 10 years and you've got another 10 years on top of that for your investments to run. So again, I've picked a scenario. It could have been anything, but that's just a scenario we're working to. So we're talking about 10 years of trading, another 10 years of investing. And also the 10% net profit that we've made every year, I'm assuming that we just keep it in the business. We haven't invested it, we haven't done anything with it, we're just keeping it in the business. So again, a very, very conservative assumption, I'm sure you'll agree. So let's see what that adds up to. If you're turning over £250,000 a year, how much money you would have in a pot in 20 years' time from now with, let's face it, not really doing a lot. £512,000. £500,000 in cash or in investments in cash and in investments, in 20 years' time, for not really doing a lot, not a huge amount of effort going into that one, I think you'll find that's quite astonishing that you'll have £500,000 there if you start doing this stuff now. If you're turning over 500,000, again, the maths aren't that complicated. If you're turning over 500,000, have £1 million. £1 million in your financial freedom fund in 20 years' time, just from doing those simple things. Doing £1 million, you can probably guess the answer. We'll have £2 million set aside by the time we finish the 20 years. And if we're doing 2 million, you probably work it out, we'll have a £4 million pot. Now that is without doing anything at all with this 10% net profit that we have made and kept in the business. Now clearly you could do all sorts of things with that. Invest it back in the company to grow and make more returns and make more profit and get more turnover. You could buy appreciating assets that you could be able to sell in the future. You could buy income generating assets. You could take more money out and put it into your pension or into other investments. You could pull it out and invest personally. There are so many possibilities. But these figures here assume that all we did was keep it in the bank. I've not even assumed you've got any interest on it, just that we kept it in the bank. Yes, I know some of you are going, well, what about inflation eroding it? Yes, I know all that. I'm giving you some general numbers to work to here. But I want you to get how achievable it is to build up a pot of cash for your future doing some really simple things. If we start making and keeping our money and making those 1% incremental changes right now. I don't know about you, but I find that pretty inspiring, and it's actually made me want to double down on looking at my numbers and just seeing where I can pull a bit more 1% out and get that invested for my future. So where are the gains going to come from? Well, this is the fun bit. It's actually quite easy to find the gains. If you're running a business and you're busy running around doing all sorts of things, there's a really good chance you've got inefficiency and you've got stuff going on that you could do better. And this is just a few of the ways that you could be making those 1% gains, improving your gross margin, improving your net margin. Put your prices up. Most people are undercharging because we're quite fearful as business owners. We fear rejection. We fear losing our clients. So put your prices up and make sure you're keeping up. Certainly make sure you put them up every year for inflation. I can't tell you how many people don't do that. Buying better, so make sure you're taking time to get the best deal, that you can get discounts or you can negotiate better deals with suppliers, find better suppliers. Being more efficient, so whether that's production or delivering your service or your product or your administration, be more efficient. Use automation to make things quicker, faster. Redeploy staff who are doing manual tasks and get them doing something value adding. Training and upskilling you and your team. If you want to make more money, you need to be better at what you do. We should be continually investing in ourselves, training, learning, growing, upskilling. And I know there's that old adage of what if I train my staff and they leave, and what would be worse if I don't train them and they stay. So make sure you're doing that. Obviously, cost control, looking at your overheads all the time, making sure you've got a budget set so you know if you're overspending on something. That's one of the key parts of a budget actually, is to make sure you've set a mark of what you want to spend. And by having that budget, you can check in every month if you're overspending. Productivity, certainly I think we found during lockdown that people have been quite a lot more productive at home without all the distractions, which really comes into time management, planning and meetings. How much of your time is lost in pointless meetings, pointless Zoom calls, I can think of a few, and really think about where did your time go and what are you planning to do? What are the incremental, I'm not talking about wholesale changes here, what are the incremental changes that you can make to get that efficiency into your business? Staff happiness, happy staff are more productive, happy staff will make you more money. Not that we do it just for that reason, it's the right thing to do, but unhappy staff will certainly cost you money. Keeping more profit, so keeping the money and investing it rather than spending it, that kind of short-term spending it versus keeping some for the future. And I don't mean save it all, of course, have a lovely life along the way, but just think, can I put another 1% away? Can I get another 1% put away for my future? Think about bulk buying if you're manufacturing or if you buy and sell products, if you've got the cash flow to allow bulk buying for more discounts, and scrutinising your figures. I can't stress how important it is that if you want to achieve this kind of plan, you've got to have really hot management accounts. You've got to have a budget, you've got to have a plan, you've got to know where you're going, and you need to make sure you're not just trying to run your business from a single profit and loss report off of your accounting system. It's never ever going to be enough if you want to achieve financial freedom and if you want better than just scraping by. And of course, customer and product profitability. That's one of the first places we'll look to improve margin. We'll all have clients and customers who are loss-making or low margin. We'll have clients who are high maintenance and eat up our time and who complain about stuff and pay late. And we'll have products as well. Some will be very profitable, some will be less profitable. It's critical that you know your customer and product profitability, because that's a really easy hunting ground for those 1% marginal gains. And you can probably see here how lots of small things would really add up. I mean, you could probably add 5% to your bottom line quite easily just by doing those things there. And then once you've got it, you keep measuring, you keep measuring, you keep measuring. You see that net profit growing and then stabilising. And you know that you know how to make money, and then you'll know that you know how to keep money. So, financial freedom, when we talk about this, I want you to not be overwhelmed by the concept. Not be thinking, oh, do you know, yeah, I'll think about that one day, or yeah, I'll meet with my financial advisor next year, next week, next month, next quarter. This is more than that. This isn't just about setting up a pension and chucking some cash into it. It's about you really taking ownership for and owning the fact that these 1% gains can start to make a massive difference to your future. So it's about also believing you can get there. And I'd like to think that today has shown you that it's more achievable than you would think. Certainly if you're early on in that journey, getting there actually, we can do it with a little bit of application. Just keep thinking 1% at a time. Where can I find a bit more? Where can I find another 1%? And it will help you when you're thinking about your day and your diary and your planning. Am I spending my time on the most valuable things that are going to grow my future value and my future wealth? And I can't stress enough, you've got to know your X number. This means knowing the amount of money that you want to have in that pot when you retire, or not even when you retire. Maybe when you want to stop work early, or you want to sell your business or move on or do something different. How much money are you aiming for? Does it need to be $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million or $4 million? And that's something that we teach with the training that we do, making sure our clients are crystal clear exactly where they're headed to, because then they can work out, if I do this, this, and this, will it be enough? And start now. Don't keep putting it off. I hear so many people saying, yeah, I'll wait till year end and see if I've made a profit, and if I have, then I'll put some in the pension. Several things wrong with that statement. First of all, you should know right now where you are and how you're doing, and you should already know how your year end's going to pan out, because you've got your plan, you've got your forecast. It's built on your vivid vision. You know where you're headed. So you should never be putting it off and finding a way to say, I have to find a way to make my pension contributions now. I can't keep waiting till year end, because if you wait till month 12 to make them, you've lost 11 months in that year where that money could have been growing for you. When I say pension, it could be another investment vehicle or investing back into your own business. Because the 1%, I think you can see, I hope you'll see from what I've talked about today, is those 1% really, really matter. And they could be the key to your financial future. Hope that's been useful. Please let me know any comments you've got. I will pick those up and answer them later. And have a great afternoon. See you soon. Bye.